연휴에는 복잡하니까 미리 기차표를 예매하세요.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Quick Korean. Today we will be looking at the section entitled 연휴에는 복잡하니까 미리 기차표를 예매하세요. Or please make a reservation ahead of time since it is a holiday. Continuing from last time, the topic of today's lesson is appointments. We will learn vocabulary related to appointments and the grammar points 으니까 and 으세요. After studying this lesson, you will be able to have conversations making appointments in Korean. Lastly, in the culture section, we will explore the Korean railroad system. Well then, let's get started. First, listen carefully to today's dialogue. Today's dialogue is between our married couple, Mr. Lee and Mrs. Kim, who are having a conversation over dinner. Mrs. Kim proposes something to Mr. Lee. What do you think that would be? Let's take a listen to their conversation and find out.
금요일이 공휴일이니까 가족여행 갈까요?
아, 그래요. 어디가 좋을까요?
경주 어때요?
좋아요. 연휴에는 복잡하니까 미리 기차표를 예매하세요.
So, were you able to understand the conversation? What did Mrs. Kim propose to Mr. Lee? Correct, she proposed going on a family trip. Now, before taking a closer look at the conversation, let's first look at the vocabulary and grammar that come out in the dialogue. First, we have the vocabulary section for this lesson. Now, our first word here is 공휴일. Now, please read along and repeat after me. 공휴일. 공휴일. Now, in Korea, October 3rd is what they call 개천절 or National Foundation Day, and October 9th is Hangul Day. You can see that these days are marked there on the calendar in this picture. Now in Korea, the people get these 2 days off. These are public holidays, or in Korean, we would use the word 공휴일. Now let's go ahead and say this word together one more time. 공휴일. Now our next word here is 가족 여행. Now please read along and repeat after me. 가족 여행. 가족 여행. Now in the picture, the family is traveling together and they are going on a family trip or 가족 여행. Now recall, 가족 is family and 여행 is travel or trip. So let's go ahead and read this word together one more time. 가족 여행. Now our next word here is 연휴. Please read along and repeat after me. 연휴. 연휴. Now as you can see on the calendar here, September 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th. In this case, during these 4 days, people get the day off. Now this is a long holiday that lasts for 4 days. In this case, in Korean, we would call that a 연휴. In other words, a 연휴 is a holiday that lasts for 2 or more days. You can think of it as a long holiday. Now let's go ahead and say the word together one more time. 연휴. Now our next word here is 미리. Please read along and repeat after me. 미리. 미리. Now tomorrow there's a test. So the students will be studying for that test today. Now the students are studying for the test ahead of time. So we can use the word 미리, which means ahead of time. So here we can say 학생들이 미리 공부해요, or that the students are studying ahead of time. So now let's go ahead and say the word together one more time. 미리. Now, our next word here is 기차표. Please read along and repeat after me. 기차표. 기차표. Now, in the picture here, there's a train and there's a ticket. Now, as you may know, when you want to ride a train, you need a ticket. Or in Korean, we would call that a 기차표. Now here, the 기차 part means train and 표 means ticket. When you combine together, you get train ticket. Now let's go ahead and say the word together one more time. 기차표. Now our next word here is 예매하다. Please read along and repeat after me. 예매하다. 예매하다. Now there's train tickets, plane tickets, movie tickets. All these tickets, you can purchase these ahead of time. Now we can use the word 예매하다, which means literally to purchase ahead of time. Now let's go ahead and say the word together one more time. 예매하다. Now let's review the words that we just learned. In Korea, October 3rd and on October 9th, people get the day off. So what do we call these kinds of days? Right. In English, it would be public holiday, or in Korean, we'd say 공휴일. Now, as you can see in the picture, the family is going to go travel off together. What are they on? Right, they are on a family trip or 가족 여행. Now, as you can see on the calendar here, September 17th, 18th, 19th, and 20th are all circled to indicate that it's a day off. So during these 4 days, people get the day off. So you can see that it's kind of a long period of time. What do we call this long holiday in Korean? Correct, we would say 연휴. Now tomorrow there's a test. Today, as you can see, the students are studying. So the students study ahead of time, or in Korean we would say, use the word 미리, or we could say 미리 공부해요 to say that they are studying ahead of time. Now if you want to take a train, you're going to need this. So what do you need to buy? Correct, you would need a train ticket, or in Korean we would say 기차표. Now in this picture here, Junsu is purchasing a ticket online. Now he's purchasing it ahead of time. So in Korean, how would we say to purchase ahead of time? Right, we would say 예매하다. 예매하다. Great.
금요일이 공휴일이니까 가족여행 갈까요?
아, 그래요. 어디가 좋을까요?
경주 어때요?
좋아요. 연휴에는 복잡하니까 미리 기차표를 예매하세요.
Now, let's take a closer look at the dialogue for this section. In this dialogue, we have a conversation between our mother and father here, Mr. Lee and Mrs. Kim. Now, Mrs. Kim proposes an idea to Mr. Lee. What do you suppose that she proposes? Well, let's go ahead and take a look. So, Mrs. Kim here starts off by saying, 금요일이 공휴일이니까 가족 여행 갈까요? So, here you can see, it says Friday. Since Friday is a national holiday, shall we go on a family trip? So, in other words, she's suggesting to Mr. Lee that the family goes on a trip because Friday is a national holiday, meaning that everyone will have the day off. So, what does Mr. Lee think of this? Well, he responds by saying, 아, 그래요? 어디가 좋을까요? So, it seems like Mr. Lee likes the idea. He goes on to say, 어디가 좋을까요? Or, where do you think it would be a good place? So, Mrs. Kim responds by, so she takes a moment to think about it, and she asks, 경주 어때요? Or, how is 경주? Or, how about 경주? So, Mr. Lee seems to like the idea. He responds by saying, 좋아요. And he goes on to say, 연휴에는 복잡하니까 미리 기차표를 예매하세요. So, in other words, during the long holiday, since, well, it's going to be pretty hectic, right? Because since everyone has the day off, a lot of people are going to want to travel. So, as you can imagine, it's going to be very busy. So, what Mr. Lee here is suggesting that since that is the case on this long holiday, he suggests that they should purchase their train tickets ahead of time, right there. So now looks like the family here is going to go on a trip. So do you think they'll have a good time? Well, hopefully everything works out. Okay, so in any case, let's go ahead and take a look at the grammar for this section. Our first grammar here is this 으니까. So now this 으니까 is used to indicate or express some reason for something. So let's go ahead and take a look at an example here. So we have 오늘 시간이 없으니까 내일 만나요. So now let's look at this back part here first, this 내일 만나요. So meet tomorrow. So why? Why is someone here suggesting let's meet tomorrow? Well, let's look at the front part here. It says 오늘 시간이 없다. Or in other words, I have no time tomorrow. So you can see that because I have no time today, I'm suggesting we meet tomorrow. So we use this 없으니까 to tell us that, this is the reason. The reason being there's no time today. So now if we combine this into one sentence, we get 오늘 시간이 없으니까 내일 만나요. So let's go ahead and read through this sentence together. Please repeat after me. 오늘 시간이 없으니까 내일 만나요. Great. Now let's take a look at the next example here. Here we have the sentence 연휴는 복잡하니까 미리 예매하세요. So if you recall, this is what Mr. Lee suggested to Mrs. Kim. Now let's take a look at the back part first. So the back part here says 미리 예매하세요. So in other words, he tells her, purchase it in advance. So why? Well, the reason comes here in the front part. We see that 연휴는 복잡하다. So 복잡하다 meaning it's very crowded. It's going to be pretty hectic because a lot of people are going to want to travel during that time. So the reason again being here is because it's busy during that time. So if we combine these two facts into one sentence, on the left side here we get the reason, and on the right side here we kind of get the result. So if we combine this into one sentence, we get 연휴는 복잡하니까 미리 예매하세요. So let's go ahead and read through it together. Please repeat after me. 연휴는 복잡하니까 미리 예매하세요. Great. Now let's look at one more example here. Our example here is 공휴일이니까 가족 여행 갈까요? So again, let's look at this second part here. We have 가족 여행 갈까요? So it looks like someone's suggesting let's go on a family trip. So why? Why would someone make such a suggestion? Or in this case, it was Mrs. Kim. And so why did she make that suggestion? The reason appears right here. 공휴일이니까. So in other words, because it is a national holiday. In other words, this is my reason here. And because this is true, this suggestion or proposal is made by Mrs. Kim. So let's go ahead and read through the sentence together. Please repeat after me. 공휴일이니까 가족 여행 갈까요? Great. Now let's go ahead and take a look at this in a little more detail. Now you can see that this 으니까 is used together with verbs, and the usage differs depending on whether the verb ends in a consonant or vowel. So in the first case here, we have 없다, and as you can see, this 없다 ends in a consonant. So we use this 으니까, and we get 없으니까, as you can see up there. Now, in the second case here, in our 복잡하다, you can see that this verb does not end in a consonant. It ends in a vowel. So we don't use the we just use the 니까. So we combine 복잡하 with 니까 to get 복잡하니까. Now in our last example, this 니까, or this grammar point, can also be used together with nouns. Now, if the noun happens to end in a consonant, we use 이니까, as you can see right here. This 이니까. But let's say the noun did not end in a consonant, it ended in a vowel. In that case, just like here, we would chop off this E part and just use 니까. So in this case, we have 공휴일, and we combine it with 이니까, and as you can see, we get the 공휴일이니까. So now let's go ahead and read through these together. Please repeat after me. 없다, 으니까, 없으니까. 복잡하다, 니까, 복잡하니까. 공휴일이다, 이니까, 공휴일이니까. Excellent. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the next grammar point. Our next grammar point here is this 으세요. Now this 으세요 is used to tell or instruct someone to do something. Now let's go ahead and take a look at an example here. Here we have 연휴에는 복잡하니까 미리 기차표를 예매하세요. So this is again what Mr. Lee told Mrs. Kim to do. So we looked at this sentence actually in the previous grammar portion. So recall, because it's a long holiday, it's going to be pretty hectic. So he kind of instructs Mrs. Kim to purchase the train ticket in advance right here. And you can see that he uses this 세요. So we have this 예매하다, which means the purchase in advance. And by adding the 세요 here, it's kind of telling someone to do something. So now let's go ahead and read through this sentence together. Please repeat after me. 연휴에는 복잡하니까 미리 기차표를 예매하세요. Great. Now let's go ahead and take a look at another example here. Our next example here is 의자에 앉으세요. So you can see that our verb here is 앉다, which means to sit, and 의자, as you recall, is chair. So it's telling someone to sit in a chair. So for example, if you were to tell me 의자에 앉으세요. So if you were to tell me that, what I would do is I would go ahead and sit down in a chair, because what you just did was you told me sit down in a chair. So now let's go ahead and read through this sentence together. Please repeat after me. 의자에 앉으세요. Great. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the usage in a little more detail. Now, as you can see, this again is used with action verbs. It's not used with descriptive verbs. And the usage is as follows. So in verbs that do not end in a consonant, in other words, that end in a vowel, such as this 예매하다, you can see here, there is no consonant here, it ends in a vowel. We just simply use 세요, and when we combine 예매하다 with 세요, the 다 goes away and we get 예매하세요. Now in the second example here, you can see in 앉다, this ends in a consonant. So when it ends in a consonant, we use this 으세요, and when we combine this 안 with the 으세요, we get 앉으세요. Now let's go ahead and read through this together. Please repeat after me. 예매하다, 세요, 예매하세요. 앉다, 으세요, 앉으세요. Well done. Now let's go ahead and take another listen to the dialogue for this section. Now let's take another look at the dialogue. This time, let's read through it together. Listen and repeat after me. 금요일이 공휴일이니까 가족 여행 갈까요? 아, 그래요? 어디가 좋을까요? 경주 어때요? 좋아요. 연휴에는 복잡하니까 미리 기차표를 예매하세요. Now, let's go through the dialogue again. This time, you read the role of Mr. Lee.
금요일이 공휴일이니까 가족여행 갈까요? 경주 어때요?
Great! Now let's go through the dialogue once more. This time, you play the role of Mrs. Kim.
아, 그래요. 어디가 좋을까요? 좋아요. 연휴에는 복잡하니까 미리 기차표를 예매하세요.
Well done! Now it's time for speaking practice. Here, we will practice using 니까 that we learned a little bit earlier. Take a look at the picture and make a sentence. So here, we can see on the right side that we have Mr. Lee and he's going to rest. So we have 쉬다. And why is he going to rest? Well, if we look on the left side here, he looks pretty exhausted or tired. We would say 피곤하다. So that would be the reason, and the result would be resting. So how would we combine these two into one sentence? We could say 피곤하니까 쉴 거예요. Next, if you look at this bottom part here, we have 약속을 미룰까요? Now, why would we want to push back an appointment? Well, if we look at the left side here, you can see that 준수 here is sick, and the verb for that would be 아프다. So, how would we combine this into one sentence? Or in other words, how would we say we had to push back the appointment because 준수 is sick? We could say 아프니까 약속을 미룰까요? Great. Now here we have this part here. 약속을 취소할까요? Or shall we cancel the appointment? Now, why would this kind of suggestion be made? Well, if we look at the left side here, you can see that 준수 is taking a test, or in Korean, we could say that the 시험이 있다, or that there is a test. So, how would we say in Korean, in other words, that we need to cancel the appointment because there is a test? We would say 시험이 있으니까 약속을 취소할까요? Great. Next, let's practice using the grammar point 으세요. Now here, 혜진 says 죄송해요. 좀 늦었어요. Or that she's sorry. She's a little late. Now, 준수 responds 괜찮아요. Or that it's okay. 준수 tells 혜진 here to sit down. Now, how would he tell her to sit down? He would say 어서 앉으세요. Now, in this picture here, 혜진 also arrives a little late. Therefore, she says 미안해요. 많이 기다렸어요? Or that, did you wait a long time? And you can see here that 준수 responds 아니에요, or no. And he also mentions 저는 커피 주문했어요, or that he already ordered coffee. So he wants to tell 혜진 to order some coffee first. Now, how would he say that? He says 커피 먼저 주문하세요, or to order. Great. Now it's time for listening practice. We will be listening to a conversation between Ms. Cho and Mrs. Kim. Ms. Cho and Mrs. Kim make an appointment together over the phone. What do you suppose that they are going to do together? Listen carefully to their conversation.
금요일에 같이 백화점에 갈까요?
그날은 약속이 있어요.
그럼 토요일은 어때요?
좋아요. 다른 약속이 없으니까 토요일에 같이 가요.
Were you able to understand their conversation? Now let's answer a few questions together to check your understanding. Now our first question here, question number 1 asks, 유미 씨는 언제 약속이 있어요? Or when does Mrs. Kim have an appointment? Now our answer choices here are 금요일, Friday, or 토요일, Saturday. So do you remember what was said in the conversation? Right. She said Friday, so the correct answer would be 금요일. Now our next question here, question number 2 asks, 영선 씨와 유미 씨는 언제 백화점을 가요? Or when do Miss Cho and Mrs. Lee, when are they going to the department store? Now our answer choices here are 금요일, Friday, or 토요일, Saturday. So do you remember what they said in the conversation? Right, they said Saturday or 토요일. Excellent. Now it's time for the vocabulary plus section. Here we will look at more words related to appointments. Now our first word here is 약속을 변경하다. Now 준수 and his friend agreed to study together at the library. However, now they want to see a movie. So they decided to change their appointment. Or in Korean we would say 약속을 변경하다. Here the 변경하다 means to change. So in Korean we could say 약속을 변경하고 싶어요. Or that they want to change their appointment. Now our next word here is 약속을 취소하다. Now on the weekend, 준수 and 혜진 agreed to see each other. However, looking at her schedule, 혜진 crosses out that appointment there. So it seems like she cancels the appointment, or in Korean we'd say 약속을 취소하다. Here, as you can guess, 취소하다 means to cancel. So in Korean, we could say that 혜진 주말 약속을 취소했어요, or that she canceled her weekend appointment. Now our next word here is 약속을 미루다. Now 준수 and his friend agreed to meet at 10 o'clock, as you can see with the clock on the left there. However, his friend calls later and says to meet at 3. So you can see that he pushed back or delayed their appointment. And in Korean, we could say that an appointment is pushed back by saying 약속을 미루다. So we could say that in Korean, 3시로 약속을 미뤘어요. Or that the appointment was pushed back till 3. Now our next word here is 약속을 지키다. Now 준수 and 혜진 agreed to meet at 2 o'clock. At 2, they both arrived at their meeting place, and you could see they're both pretty happy to see each other. Now they both kept their promise or appointment. So in Korean, we could say that about the both of them, we could say 약속을 지키다, or that they kept their appointment. However, there are those friends that do always arrive late. To those friends, we can tell them to arrive on time. In Korean, we could tell them 약속을 잘 지키세요, or please arrive on time. Now, our next word here is 약속을 안 지키다. So 혜진 and 준수 agreed to meet at 2. However, at 2 o'clock, 준수 hasn't arrived yet, and as you can see in the picture, 혜진 is a little upset. Now, 준수 is always late, so we can say that he never keeps his promise or appointment in Korean by saying 준수는 이제 약속을 항상 안 지켜요. Now, in this case, this 항상 here means always or all the time. So you can see that the translation here is that he never or he breaks his promise all the time. Now, our next word here is 약속을 잊다. Now, 준수 and 혜진 this time agreed to meet at 11. However, it seems to have slipped Haejin's mind and she totally forgot about the arrangement. Therefore, it's 11 and she went to the library and reads a book. You can see that on the left side here, Junsu is looking at his clock. It's 11, but Haejin didn't show up. So we can say that Haejin forgot an important appointment, or in Korean, we could say 중요한 약속을 잊지 마세요. Now here, the 중요한 indicates important. So if we combine 중요한 and 약속, it means an important appointment. Now here, our next word is 오래 기다리다. Now here, Jimin and her friend agreed to meet each other. However, her friend did not arrive at the agreed time. You could see here that the time flows. It's 3:30. Time keeps passing. And now it's 5 o'clock and Jimin's still waiting. So as you can see, about an hour and a half has passed. Now we can say that Jimin waits a long time for a friend. And in Korean, we would say 친구를 오래 기다렸어요. Now this 오래 here, as you can guess, means a long time. So combining the 기다리다 with 오래 means to wait a long time. Now, our next word here is 늦지 말다. Now in this picture, you can see that Jimin is late to class. The teacher tells Jimin not to be late to class. In Korean, the teacher would probably say something along the lines of 수업 시간에 늦지 마세요, or don't be late to class. Now, let's review and practice using the words that we just learned in this section. So as you can see here, there is a question asked. 무슨 일이에요? Now this 무슨 일이에요 means like what is happening or what's wrong or what's up. So in the first picture, you can see that Junsu calls his friend. So his friend asks, 무슨 일이에요? Or what's up? Now Junsu and his friend had agreed to study together at the library. However, now Junsu wants to see a movie. So you can see that the picture of them studying at the library has been X'd out. And to the right, you see a picture of them watching a movie together. So how can we say that he wants to change the appointment? We could say 약속을 변경하고 싶어요. Now in this next picture, a friend calls you. Based on the picture here, 무슨 일이에요? Or what is happening? So you can see that the original schedule plan is crossed out there on the Saturday line on May 16th. So your friend probably called to tell you 약속을 취소하고 싶어요, or that your friend wants to cancel the appointment. So in this next picture, 무슨 일이에요? Or what's going on? Now Junsu and Haejin agreed to meet. However, Haejin is off in the library doing something else. It appears that she forgot about meeting together with Junsu. So what can we say about her? We can say 약속을 잊었어요, or that she forgot about the appointment. Now, let's read through these exercises together one more time. Our first word here, we have 약속을 변경하고 싶어요. In the next picture, we had 약속을 취소하고 싶어요. And in our last picture, we have 약속을 잊었어요. Well done. Lastly, it's time for the Korean culture section. Today, we will explore the Korean railroad system. In Korea, where do you think you are able to go by train? Also, how do you think you would reserve a train ticket? Let's take a look and find out.
한국의 철도. 한국에는 전국적으로 철도가 잘 연결되어 기차를 타고 다른 지역으로 편리하게 갈 수 있습니다. 인터넷으로 한국철도공사 코레일 홈페이지에 들어가면 기차 역명, 열차 시각, 요금 등을 확인하고 승차권을 예매할 수 있습니다.
Now, let's go over what we learned today. Today's topic was appointments. We learned about vocabulary related to appointments and the grammar points 으니까 and 으세요. Finally, in the culture section, we explored the Korean railroad system. So, how do you feel? Do you think you can now make detailed appointments in Korean? Great! Well, this brings us to the end of this lesson. See you next time!